The alarm rang at 5:10 a.m., sharp and unforgiving. Michael Carter didn't hit snooze. He never did anymore. The small apartment was still dark, the kind of dark that made the city outside feel far away. Michael sat on the edge of the bed, tying his shoes slowly, carefully, like if he rushed, something fragile might break. On the nightstand sat a folded piece of paper. A job interview confirmation. His dream job. The one that could finally change everything. From the next room, a soft cough came. Then another. Michael paused, listening. His eyes closed for a moment. Before we go any further, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from right now? It still amazes me how one story can reach hearts across the world. Drop your city in the comments. Let's see how far kindness can travel today. Michael stood and walked into the small bedroom. His daughter, Ava, 8 years old, lay curled under a thin blanket, her face flushed. He pressed the back of his hand to her forehead. "Daddy," she whispered. "I'm here," he said softly, brushing her hair back. "Just rest." Ava had asthma. Most days it was manageable. But when the weather changed, it scared him. Every breath felt like borrowed time. "I'll be back soon," Michael whispered, more to himself than to her. He left her with his neighbor and stepped out into the early morning air. The city was just waking up. Delivery trucks, coffee shops opening, buses humming like tired giants. Michael checked his watch. He had just enough time. Then he saw her. She was sitting on the curb near a closed grocery store, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tight around herself. No jacket, no bag. Just a woman alone as the morning cold cut through the street. Michael slowed. He told himself to keep walking. He had an interview in less than an hour. One he'd waited years for. One he couldn't afford to miss, but the woman didn't move. She didn't look around. She just stared at the ground like she'd already given up on the idea that anyone would stop. Michael sighed, turned back. "Hey," he said gently. "Are you okay?" She flinched, then looked up. Her eyes were red, swollen from crying. "Why, I don't know." Her name was Grace. She said it quietly, like she wasn't sure she deserved to be heard. She had been robbed the night before. Wallet, phone, everything. She had tried calling for help, but no one came. The shelter she was told about was full. The buses wouldn't take her without fare. Michael glanced at his watch again. His chest tightened. "If you were standing there, let me ask you this. What would you have done? Would you have walked away or stayed? Be honest and tell me in the comments. And if your heart already knows the answer, tap like. It's one small way to say compassion still matters. Michael made a decision that would echo for the rest of his life. "Come on," he said. "I'll help you." He bought her breakfast from the corner diner. Hot food, coffee. She ate slowly, like she hadn't eaten in days. Michael made calls from his phone shelters, community centers, even the police station. Every option seemed to end with a polite apology. "I'm sorry," Grace said quietly. "I didn't mean to ruin your morning." "You didn't," Michael sighed, though he felt the time slipping away like sand through his fingers. The interview time came and went. 5 hours passed. Michael sat with Grace at the community center, waiting on paperwork, watching the door like someone might walk through and fix everything. His phone buzzed, 3 missed calls. A voicemail from the company. He didn't listen. Instead, he noticed Grace's hands shaking. "You don't have to stay," she said. "You've already done too much." Michael leaned back in his chair, exhausted. "When my wife died," he said suddenly, "people helped me. Strangers. They didn't have to, but they did. And I never forgot it." Grace looked at him, really looked at him, like she was seeing something she hadn't seen in a long time. "Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? If you have, write yes below and tell us their name if you can." Gratitude has a way of traveling further than pain. The door to the community center opened. A man in a suit rushed in, panic written across his face. He scanned the room desperately, then stopped when his eyes landed on Grace. Grace. He shouted. She froze. Dad? Michael stood slowly as the man crossed the room and wrapped Grace in his arms, holding her like he might never let go. His shoulders shook. I've been looking for you all morning, the man said. I thought I lost you. Grace cried openly now. Michael stepped back, unsure, heart pounding. The man turned to him, his eyes filled with tears. You, he said. You stayed with her? Michael nodded, still confused. The man held out his hand. I'm Robert Howell, and I don't think you understand what you just did. Michael didn't yet know that the choice he made that morning missing, his dream job, was about to come full circle in a way he never could have imagined. Michael stood there awkwardly, hands at his sides, as Robert Hall finally pulled back. From his daughter, Grace wiped her face, embarrassed by her tears, but unable to stop them. The room felt suddenly smaller, filled with something heavy and electric. I'm sorry, Grace said, her voice breaking. I lost my phone, my wallet. I didn't know how to reach you. Robert shook his head, gripping her shoulders gently. None of that matters. I just needed to find you. Michael cleared his throat. I was just trying to help her get somewhere safe. Robert turned fully toward him now. Up close, Michael could see the man's exhaustion wrinkles carved. Deep by worry, eyes red from hours without sleep. Sir, Robert said slowly, deliberately, do you have any idea how many people walked past my daughter today? Michael hesitated. I know. Dozens, Robert said. Maybe more. He paused. You were the only one who stopped. Grace looked at Michael, her expression full of something close to awe. He stayed, she said quietly. Even when it cost him? That was when the weight of it finally hit Robert. Cost you? He asked. Michael glanced at his phone, still face down in his pocket. For a moment, he considered brushing it off. But the truth pressed too hard. I had a job interview this morning, he said. A big one. I missed it. Grace's eyes widened. Michael, you never told me that? He shrugged, uncomfortable. Didn't seem important at the time. Robert stared at him, stunned. That interview, Michael continued, it could have changed things for me. For my daughter. His voice softened. But I couldn't leave her like that. Silence settled over the room. Even the distant chatter from another office felt muted. Now, pause here for a moment. Think about your own life. What's one small, good thing you've done recently, something kind, even if no one noticed? Share it below. Let's remind each other that humanity still lives. Your story might light someone's path tonight. Robert sat down slowly, rubbing his face. My daughter is all I have, he said. Her mother passed away when Grace was in college. I thought I taught her how to be careful, how to protect herself. He looked up at Michael again. But today, a stranger protected her instead. Michael shifted, unsure what to say. Praise made him uncomfortable. He wasn't a hero. He was just a dad who knew what fear felt like. I should get going, Michael said finally. My daughter's waiting. Grace stood up quickly. Please at least let us give you a ride. Michael shook his head. I'll take the bus. Robert reached into his jacket, pulled out a card, and handed it to him. Call me, he said firmly. Please. Michael nodded, slipping it into his pocket without looking at it. They parted with a quiet handshake. Grace hugged Michael once more, brief, careful, grateful. Thank you, she whispered. For seeing me, Michael gave a small smile. Take care. By the time Michael reached his apartment, the sun was already dipping low. Ava sat on the couch, coloring, her breathing calm. Relief flooded him the moment he saw her. You miss your big meeting? She asked casually, Michael sat beside her, pulling her close. Yeah, I did. Ava looked up at him. Are you sad? He thought for a moment. No, he said honestly. I don't think I am. That night, after Ava fell asleep, Michael finally listened to the voicemail. Michael Carter, the voice said. This is regarding your interview this morning. Unfortunately, since you didn't arrive, he stopped at their dot. He set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. Doubt crept in, quiet but sharp. Had he just thrown away his daughter's future? For a stranger? His phone buzzed again. Unknown number dot. This is Robert Holla. Please call me when you can. It's important. Michael exhaled slowly, heart beating faster. He didn't know it yet, but the choice he made that morning wasn't done. Unfolding. Not even close. He picked up the phone, thumb hovering over the screen as the question settled heavy in his chest. What if kindness really did come back around? Michael waited until Ava's breathing settled into its familiar rhythm before stepping onto the small balcony. The city hummed below cars passing, a distant siren, someone laughing somewhere far. Away. He dialed the number Robert had sent, his pulse steady but his chest tight. Michael, Robert answered almost immediately. Thank you for calling. No problem, Michael said. I just wanted to make sure Grace got home safe. She did, Robert replied. She's asleep now. First time all day she's stopped shaking. A pause. I can't stop thinking. About what you did. Michael leaned against the railing. I didn't do anything special. That's what people who do special things always say, Robert replied quietly. But I didn't call to praise you. I called because I owe you the truth. Michael listened. I own Holly Logistics, Robert continued. We handle regional supply contracts, medical equipment, food chains, emergency services. He hesitated. You were interviewing with us this morning. Michael closed his eyes. The name hit him like a wave. I know, Robert said. You were the top candidate. My assistant showed me your resume when you didn't arrive. I was frustrated, confused. His voice softened. Then I found my daughter and I heard your name. The city noise faded. Michael's grip tightened on the railing. I don't know what to say, Michael whispered. Say nothing, Robert replied. Just listen. I don't believe in coincidence the way I used to. Michael thought of the diner, of Grace's shaking hands, of the interview. Room he never walked into. I didn't help her because of a job, Michael said firmly. I know, Robert said. That's exactly why I'm calling. They talked a few minutes longer about Grace, about Ava, about the strange weight of choices that change lives. When the call ended, Michael stayed on the balcony, staring up at the sky, unsure whether to feel relief or fear dot, because now the stakes felt even higher. The next morning came too quickly. Michael woke Ava, made breakfast, packed her inhaler with extra care. As he walked her to school, his mind replayed Robert's words again and again. You. Okay, Daddy? Ava asked. Yeah, he said, just thinking. About whether kindness could be trusted. About whether hope always asks for a price dot at work. Michael moved through his shift like a ghost. He stacked shelves, answered customers, nodded at coworkers, but his thoughts were elsewhere. Around noon, his manager pulled him aside. Hey, she said gently. You seem distracted. Just tired, Michael replied. She nodded. Take your break early. Michael stepped outside, phone in hand, when it buzzed. Robert Hall. Can we meet? A text read. Today. Michael stared at the screen. For a long moment before typing back, yes, they met at a quiet cafe near the river. Robert arrived first, suit replaced by a simple jacket. He stood when Michael approached. Thank you for coming, Robert said. Michael nodded, sitting down. Slowly. I'm still trying to understand all this. So am I, Robert admitted. I've spent my life believing success meant control. Yesterday reminded me how fragile that illusion is. He slid a folder across the table. Inside was a formal job offer. Salary, benefits, flexible hours. A clause that made Michael's breath catch family first scheduling. This isn't charity, Robert said, reading Michael's expression. It's an opportunity, one you earned before yesterday. Yesterday just reminded me why it matters. Michael felt his eyes burn. He looked away, swallowing hard. Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? If you have, write yes below and tell us their name if you can. Gratitude has a way of traveling further than we think. Michael closed the folder gently. I need time, he said honestly. Of course, Robert replied. Whatever you decide, know this, my respect isn't conditional. They stood to leave. Outside, the river glinted under the sun, calm and steady. That evening, Michael sat with Ava at the kitchen table. Homework spread between them. Daddy, she said suddenly, did you help that lady because you're nice or because you had to? Michael paused, considering the question. I helped because it was the right thing, he said. Even if it was hard, Ava nodded, satisfied. I think that's the best kind. Later, alone in bed, Michael stared at the ceiling again. But this time, doubt mixed with something else, possibility. He thought of Grace's father, standing in the community center with fear in his eyes, of the interview he missed, of the job now sitting quietly on his table, and beneath it all, a deeper question pressed in. Was this reward, or the beginning of something far more complicated? Michael reached for the folder once more, fingers resting on the edge, as the future waited patient, uncertain, and wide open. Michael didn't open the folder again that night. He left it on the kitchen counter, face down, like it might speak if he looked at it too long. Sleep came late, and when it did, it was thin and restless. His mind kept circling the same thought. What if accepting this meant turning kindness into a transaction? Morning arrived with gray light and the sound of Ava coughing softly in her room. Michael was there in seconds. She sat up, inhaler already in his hand before she asked. After a few steady breaths, she leaned against him, small and warm. You're shaking, she said. Michael smiled faintly. Guess we both are. At school drop-off, Ava paused before getting out of the car. Whatever you're worried about, she said very seriously, you always figure it out. Michael watched her walk inside, backpack bouncing, and felt that familiar mix of pride and fear twist in his chest. At work, he finally told his manager the truth. About the missed interview, about the offer. She listened without interrupting, then surprised him by smiling. I'm proud of you, she said. Not because of the job, but because of why you missed it, he swallowed. You're not upset? She shook her head. Life's bigger than this place. Go where you're valued. That afternoon, Michael called Grace. She answered on the second ring. Hi, I just wanted to check in, he said. How are you doing? A pause. Better, she said. Still shaken, but safe. That matters. They talked for a few minutes about nothing important, weather, coffee, how strange life felt when it suddenly slowed down. Before hanging up, Grace said quietly, my dad told me about the job. Michael exhaled. Yeah. You know, she added, whatever you decide, please don't let it change the way you see what you did. Michael nodded, even though she couldn't see him. I won't. That night, he finally opened the folder again, read every line. The benefits alone could change Ava's life. Fewer night shifts, health coverage, stability, but the doubt lingered. Midway through the paperwork, Michael stopped and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Let me ask you something right here, right now. What's one small good thing you've done recently? Something kind, even if no one noticed. Write it below. Sometimes sharing it reminds us that humanity still shows up quietly every day. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs tonight. 2 days later, Michael met Robert again, this time at the logistics office. The building was modern, clean, efficient. Everything Michael thought success was supposed to look like. Robert walked him through the space, introducing him to people by name. No grand gestures, just respect. At the end of the tour, they sat in Robert's office. Silence stretched comfortably between them. "You don't owe me an answer today," Robert said, "but I want to be clear about something." Michael looked up. "I didn't offer you this because you helped my daughter," Robert said. "I offered it because you showed me the kind of man I want leading others, someone who doesn't look away." Michael felt something loosen in his chest. "I accept," he said quietly. Robert smiled, not wide, not triumphant, just relieved. "Welcome aboard." The first week was overwhelming. New systems, new faces, new responsibility. Michael came home every night exhausted but lighter, like the weight he'd been carrying alone had finally been shared. Grace and Ava met for ice cream one afternoon. Ava talked nonstop. Grace listened like every word mattered. "You're good with her," Ava said suddenly. Grace smiled. "She's easy to care about." But not everything settled smoothly. One evening, Michael received an email from the company that had scheduled his original interview. A generic rejection. Cold. Final. The old fear flared. What if this job disappeared too? What if trusting kindness left him unprepared again? That night, Michael found himself back on the balcony, staring at the city lights. Robert's words echoed in his mind. "Control is an illusion," Grace's voice followed. "Don't let it change what it meant." Michael realized then that the risk hadn't been missing the interview. The risk would have been walking past Grace and teaching Ava that kindness was optional. Inside, Ava slept peacefully. For the first time in a long time, Michael let himself believe that he hadn't just survived that choice, he'd grown from it. But the true test of that belief was still coming, because life has a way of asking us to prove our values when it matters most, and Michael had no idea that the hardest moment, the one that would demand everything he'd learned, was already on its way. The call came on a Tuesday evening, just as Michael was helping Ava with her math homework. The apartment smelled faintly of tomato soup, the kind that came from a can but felt like effort anyway. Ava was counting on her fingers, tongue pressed between her teeth. Michael's phone buzzed on the counter. He ignored it at first. Then it buzzed again. A third time. He glanced at the screen. Unknown number. His chest tightened, not with fear, but with instinct. "I'll be right back," he told Ava, stepping into the hallway. "Michael Carter?" A woman's voice asked when he answered, calm, professional. "Yes." "This is Officer Reynolds with the City Police Department. I'm calling regarding Grace Hawley." The hallway felt suddenly too small. "Is she okay?" Michael asked. "She's safe," the officer said. "But we need her to come in. There's been a development in her case." Michael closed his eyes. After he hung up, he stood there longer than necessary, breathing slowly, grounding himself. He had hoped selfishly that Grace's nightmare would fade quietly, that healing could happen without reopening old wounds. Life didn't work that way. Grace sat across from him at the police station an hour later, hands clasped tightly in her lap. She looked smaller under the harsh fluorescent lights, like the world had tilted against her again. "They found him," she said, voice barely steady. "The man who robbed me, and there's more." Michael leaned forward, listening. "They think he's connected to something bigger," Grace continued. "They want a full statement. And my dad," she shook her head. "He's already blaming himself." Again, Michael nodded slowly. He didn't rush to speak. He knew this kind of moment when words could either anchor someone or make them feel like they were drowning. "I can stay," he said simply, "as long as you need." Grace looked at him, eyes glassy. "You've already done enough." Michael shook his head. "None of you're still standing alone." Hours passed, paperwork, questions, long pauses where Grace stared at the table, fighting memories that didn't want to stay buried. At one point, her hands started shaking uncontrollably. Michael slid a cup of water toward her, didn't touch her, just stayed close, and when it was finally over, when Grace was released to go home, she looked at him with exhaustion carved deep into her face. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "Every time I think I'm okay, it comes back." Michael's voice was quiet but steady. "Then we take it one step at a time, not alone." Outside, Robert waited by his car. The moment he saw Grace, he pulled her into a hug. Relief and guilt tangled together. "Thank you," Robert said to Michael, his voice breaking. "Again." Michael nodded, unsure what to say anymore. Gratitude had started to feel heavy-like. Something he didn't quite know how to hold. Later that night, back at home, Michael sat alone at the kitchen table. The job paperwork lay open in front of him this time. Emails, deadlines, meetings he was supposed to prepare for. His phone buzzed. "Robert." "Holly, I know this is asking a lot, but Grace doesn't want to be alone tonight. Would you mind staying nearby?" Michael stared at the message. Tomorrow morning, he had a presentation, his first major one, the kind that set the tone for everything that followed. He'd been warned, don't miss it. He looked down the hallway toward Ava's room. She slept peacefully, unaware of the quiet battle forming in her father's chest. Michael typed back slowly. "I'll be there." He closed the laptop. At Grace's apartment, the lights were low. She sat curled on the couch, knees pulled in, eyes distant. "You didn't have to come," she said. "I know," Michael replied, "but I wanted to." They sat in silence for a while. Not awkward, just heavy with unspoken things. "Sometimes I wonder," Grace said quietly, "if people get tired of showing up." Michael thought about the interview, the missed chance, the job he now had because of a choice he never planned to make. "I think people don't get tired of kindness," he said. "They get tired of being alone." Grace's eyes filled. She turned away, wiping her face quickly. "If that moment just hit you, if you felt something tighten in your chest, leave it. Sometimes one small symbol says what our hearts can't put into words." Michael stayed until Grace finally fell asleep, her breathing slow and even. When he stepped outside, the night air felt cold and sharp. His phone buzzed again. An email from work. Reminder: presentation at 8 a.m. Attendance is mandatory. Michael leaned against his car, staring at the screen. He had already missed one dream. Once the question wasn't whether he could afford to miss another moment like this. The question was whether he could live with himself if he stopped showing up now. As he drove home through empty streets, the weight of that choice pressed down on him, because sometimes the hardest tests don't come once. They come again, and next time, the cost feels even higher. Michael didn't sleep that night. Not really. He lay on his back, staring at the faint crack in the ceiling above his bed, listening to Ava's soft breathing through the open door. The city outside was unusually quiet, like it was holding its breath with him. Every few minutes, his eyes drifted to the clock. 2:14 a.m. 3:02. AM 4:11, M. At 5:30. His alarm went off anyway. He turned it off before it finished ringing and sat up slowly. His body felt heavy, but his mind was sharp, too sharp. The presentation replayed in his head. Slides, numbers, names he was still learning to pronounce correctly. This job was stability. It was security. It was the promise he'd made to Ava without ever saying it out loud. In the kitchen, Michael poured coffee he didn't really want. His phone buzzed on the counter, a message from Grace. I didn't sleep much. I'm sorry if I pulled you away from something important. Michael stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back, you didn't pull me? I chose to be there. Ava padded into the kitchen in her socks, rubbing her eyes. You look tired, she said. Michael smiled softly. Guess we both are. As he drove her to school, the sky was just beginning to lighten, pale blue breaking through gray. Ava was quiet, staring out the window. Daddy, she said suddenly. Yeah? If someone hurts you, but they didn't mean to, she said. Carefully, do you still forgive them? Michael's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. Why do you ask? She shrugged, just wondering. He thought about Grace, about Robert, about the people who had failed them, both not always out of cruelty, but fear, weakness, silence. I think forgiveness isn't about what they deserve, he said slowly. It's about what you need to keep going. Ava nodded like that. Answer fit somewhere important. At 7:40 a.m. Michael stood outside the office building, presentation folder under his arm. His phone buzzed again. Grace. The police called. They want me to come in again. My dad's stuck in traffic. I'm really scared. Michael closed his eyes. This was it. The moment that decided who he really was. He could go upstairs, give the presentation, prove he was dependable, or he could turn around again and stand beside someone whose world was shaking. Be honest with yourself for a second. Could you forgive someone after everything they put you through? Type forgive if you think. You could, or never if it would break you too deeply. There's no wrong answer, only truth. Michael stepped away from the building. He sent one email to his manager. Short, honest. Family emergency. I'm so sorry. Then he got back in his car. At the police station, Grace was pacing when he arrived. The relief on her face when she saw him was immediate and painful. You came, she said, voice cracking. Of course, Michael replied. You didn't think I'd stop now, did you? This time, the questioning was harder, more detailed. Grace's voice shook as she spoke, but she didn't stop. Not once. Michael sat close, grounding her with his presence, steady and unmovable. When it was finally over, Grace slumped back in her chair, exhausted beyond words. I don't know how you keep doing this, she said quietly, showing up. Even when it costs you? Michael didn't answer right away, because for the first time, he felt the cost clearly. They stepped outside into the late morning sun. Robert was there, his face lined with worry and something else, guilt. I should have been here sooner, Robert said. I keep thinking if I had protected her better, none of this would have happened. Grace shook her head. Dad, please. Michael watched them, understanding more than either of them realized. Parents carried invisible blame like a second spine. You did protect her, Michael said gently. You just couldn't protect her from everything? Robert's eyes filled. He nodded, unable to speak. Michael checked his phone. A new email. From work. Please see me when you arrive. His stomach tightened. Grace noticed. Is it bad? She asked. I don't know yet, Michael said honestly. They stood there for a moment, sunlight warm on their faces, the city moving on around them. Michael had chosen kindness again, but this time, the consequences were no longer theoretical. They were waiting, and whatever came next would decide whether kindness was something the world rewarded or something it demanded courage to keep choosing anyway. Michael didn't go back to the office that day. Instead, he drove Ava home from school, the two of them sitting in quiet understanding as the city slid by outside the windows. She didn't ask questions. She just reached over at a red light and rested her small hand on his arm. That was enough. That evening, Robert invited them both to dinner. Grace was there too, quieter than usual but steadier, like someone who had walked through fire and come out changed. The table was simple takeout boxes, mismatched plates, but the air felt intentional. Safe. I heard about today, Robert said carefully, once Ava was distracted with dessert. Michael. I don't know how to thank you anymore. Michael shook his head. You don't have to. Grace looked at him, eyes shining with something deeper than gratitude. You didn't just help me, she said. You showed me what it looks like when someone doesn't leave. Michael felt his chest tighten. He looked away, uncomfortable, with the weight of her words, not because they were too much, but because they were true. The next morning, he walked into the office. His manager didn't yell. She didn't sigh. She just closed the door and gestured for him to sit. You're good at your job, she said plainly. And you're honest. That matters. A pause. But this position comes with responsibility. Michael nodded. I understand. She studied him for a long moment. So here's what we're going to do. Flexible hours, remote when needed. You don't disappear, you communicate. We make this work. Relief washed through him so fast he had to grip the edge of the chair. Thank you, he said quietly. She smiled. Just don't make me regret it. As Michael left the office, the city felt different, brighter, like the air had shifted just enough to let him breathe fully again. Weeks passed. Grace's case moved forward, slowly, painfully, but with progress. She started therapy. She started sleeping better. Some nights were still hard, but she wasn't facing them alone anymore. Michael found his rhythm at work. Ava's asthma improved with better care. Life didn't turn perfect, but it became manageable. And sometimes manageable was its own miracle. One Sunday afternoon, the four of them walked through a park near the river. Ava ran ahead, laughing, her voice cutting clean through the air. Grace watched her with a soft smile. She's lucky, Grace said. Michael shook his head. She's strong, Grace nodded. So are you. They stopped near the water. Sunlight danced across the surface, gentle and unassuming. I used to think kindness was a weakness, Grace said. Something people exploited. She looked at Michael. Now I think it's a choice. One that keeps choosing back. Michael didn't reply right away. He didn't need to. If you believe love still wins, even when it costs something, comment amen. Let's fill this moment with hope. Somewhere, someone scrolling right now might need to see it. Later that night, Michael stood on his balcony again, city lights blinking below. But this time, the ceiling didn't feel like it was closing in. He thought about the man he'd been before that morning, the one who measured his worth by what he could secure. He thought about the man he was becoming. Inside, Ava slept peacefully. Grace's laughter echoed faintly from a phone call drifting through the open door. Life imperfect, demanding, beautiful was happening. Michael realized then that kindness hadn't taken anything from him. It had given him clarity, and tomorrow there would be one final moment, one last quiet decision. Not dramatic, not loud, but one that would bring everything full circle. The morning was calm, almost deceptively so. Michael woke before his alarm, sunlight slipping through the blinds and resting gently on the floor. For once, his chest didn't feel tight when he opened his eyes. He lay still for a moment, listening. Ava's steady breathing, the distant sound of traffic. Life continuing. He made breakfast slowly, eggs, toast, nothing fancy. Ava shuffled in, hair messy, eyes half closed. You're smiling, she said. Michael chuckled. Am I? She nodded. Yeah, like when things are okay. That word lingered. Okay. It didn't mean perfect. It meant stable. It meant safe enough to exhale. Later that afternoon, Michael received a message from Robert. Grace has her final hearing today. She asked if you'd come. Michael didn't hesitate. The courtroom was quiet, formal, intimidating. Grace sat straight-backed, hands folded, her face calm in a way that felt earned. She spoke clearly, confidently, not without pain, but without. Shamed up, Michael watched from the back, heart full and heavy all at once. He saw the woman she had been that morning on the curb, and the woman she was now. Still healing, still standing taut when it ended. Grace stepped outside into the sunlight and stopped short when she saw him. "You came," she said, breath catching. "Of course," Michael replied. Robert joined them, his eyes wet. "It's done," he said. "No more waiting." Grace closed her eyes for a moment, letting the words sink in. Then she laughed soft, shaky, real. "I didn't do this alone," she said. She looked at Michael. "You didn't save me, but you stayed." And that changed everything. They stood there together, the weight of months finally easing. Cars passed. People hurried by. The world didn't stop for them, but something inside did. That evening, Michael and Ava walked past the same grocery store where he'd first seen Grace sitting on the curb. The space looked ordinary now, almost forgettable. "Daddy, Ava?" Sad, slowing her steps. "Is this where you met Grace?" Michael nodded. "Yeah." Ava thought for a moment. "I'm glad you were late that day." Michael smiled, throat tight. "Me too." At home, he tucked Ava into bed and turned off the light. As he closed her door, he paused, feeling the quiet weight of gratitude settle deep in his chest. Before you scroll away, pause with me for just a moment. If this story moved you, don't pass it quietly. Tap like not for me, but for the woman who carried fear and still chose to stand back up. For the child who learned that kindness matters. One simple click can be your way of saying, "I saw this, I felt it." Later that night, Michael stood on the balcony one last time, city lights glowing like scattered stars. He thought about the dream job he almost lost. The moments he almost chose differently. He realized something, then something simple, but true. Kindness doesn't always arrive at a convenient time. It doesn't wait until your life is in order. It asks who you are before the reward is clear. Michael didn't miss his dream job that morning. He found his purpose because 5 hours after he stopped for a stranger, her father arrived. But long before that, something else arrived too. A reminder that the smallest choices made quietly, without witnesses, are often the ones that change everything. And sometimes the best thing you can give the world is simply choosing not to walk away.